So you were living in Boston.
I was living in Boston, working at that bookstore.
And then you had to go to Los Angeles?
And I was visiting my parents in Los Angeles.
Right.
And so I signed up, had my interview, which totally offended me because they asked, you know, how often do you masturbate? I mean, all sorts of questions. I was like, who are you asking me this question? It was a very intensive interview that they gave you, went through everything about your life. And I said, you know, I really enjoy the work I'm doing in Boston at the bookstore. Can I stay there? And they said, yes, we're looking to actually to have, I mean, it was the only, when I went back to Boston, I was the only devotee in the Boston area. There was no one else there.
Wow.
There was probably only about 40 to 50 devotees altogether. Rod and Connie Grisso lived in Connecticut. They were the closest devotees, and they were 3 or 4 hours away from me, whatever. And there wasn't anybody else in the whole New England area.
And now this Boston is an important area in this period of time because that was a very, let's say, influential area. There was a lot happening. Trungpa and the Buddhists were settled in there, and the various.
They were up at Tail of the Tiger.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
And I was very connected because I worked at the East West Journal. And Dow Books was the bookstore, spiritual bookstore in the Boston area. There's another astrology bookstore that was kind of in Cambridge, and another kind of quirky bookstore in Cambridge or two. But the real classic spiritual literature, we were the main store. So everybody would come in. When anybody would come into the Boston area, they came into Dow Books.
Right.
And so it was very valuable now that I was Adi Da's devotee, and that I hooked us up with getting some radio play. And over time, we did a number of articles in the East West Journal over the next few years because I knew, I mean, I had lived in the house with Robert Hargrove, who was the editor of the East West Journal. And then he and my former girlfriend and a few others, Eric Putney and Peggy, started the New Age Journal. And I had known all those people because I lived in the house with those people. And so we got a nice article in the New Age Journal as well. And so later when I joined the community, and then we did the film A Difficult Man.
Mm-hmm.
We decided where to premiere the film. And the film was premiered nationally in Boston.
Oh, wow.
And one of the reasons it was premiered in Boston was because I had contacts there, and I was actually the promo person. I mean, I'm 22 years old, but I was the promo person going out and doing radio shows, and Godfrey came back, we did a TV show, a Hubert Jessup show. We went to New York, and Lex Hickson interviewed us, and the premiere of A Difficult Man, 1,000 people showed up.
1,000?
1,000 people showed up. We did it at the Arlington Street Church. It only held 650 people. So we had to immediately on the spot decide we were going to have a second showing. So we had a showing at 8 o'clock, and the film ran an hour, and then we had another showing at 10 o'clock. We then went down and showed it the next weekend at the Church of St. John Divine in New York City. Same thing happened. That one only held 450. We had 700 show up. So we had to do a second showing there because more people were showing. It was a phenomenon. Absolute phenomenon. So in any case, that was my background.
Just to ask you a question here. What was some of the responses from the showing of The Difficult Man at that time?
People were blown away. Absolutely blown away. There was something, you know, that's all the Garbage and the Goddess period is showing all the phenomena. And Michael Wood had a friend, Greg Hoblet, who later went on and had quite a career in television and some movies. And he was his college friend. So he came up and did a high quality film. This was, you know, top quality film. And so the graphics and the sound and everything was great. And when this film was shown, it transmitted. Mm-hmm. It wasn't simply that you were getting an intellectual situation. It, like, energy came out. I remember we showed it on TV on WGHB in Boston on the Hubert Jessup, and after it was over, he kind of went, whoa, you know, what was that? Because people are having kriyas. They're screaming and rolling on the floor, and Adi Da is basically saying, all throughout it, that that's not it. Right. Spiritual experience is not it. He gave all those experiences in order to just very quickly get that out of the way. Okay, you all want these experiences. I remember the first time I was joining, when I finally came out to the community, I was joining around the same time as Terry was. We were talking about him earlier. And I remember I was in the hall with, and Terry's having some kriyas. And I'm sitting there and I say, I know Kriyas aren't the point, but I'd really like to have some of those to see what they're like. And everybody was like that. Everyone wants to, you know, have those experiences, because until you get the point that it's not it, you're seeking them. And so Adida said, I'll give them wholesale. And so I was there in Garbage and the Goddess. It's kind of a seminal moment. Adida called it his first great teaching demonstration, in which absolutely miracles of that yogic kind happened all the time. I mean, I saw Adida wave his hand and clouds rolling across the sky. I saw him wave his hand again and thunder right at the moment, and coincident with his hands. That doesn't happen.
Right.
But it did. And if you look in these books, I mean, as you and I both are, we're scholars of the tradition, you'll see books about weather miracles associated with realizers all the time. Well, that's in books, but here it was in front of my eyes. And of course, when I first came to Adida, having a tradition in the background in the spiritual traditions, I had to place him. So I remember sitting at the table with Adida and feeling this incredible radiance. He would be so bright that you would see a glow around him. You see pictures of Christian saints with a halo around them, gold halo. Literally with my physical eyes, I would see that halo around Adida. And here I am, raised Jewish culturally, reading all the spiritual traditions. I'm sitting at a table with Adida. What's going through my mind is the picture of Leonardo da Vinci at the Last Supper, because we have so poor archetypes in the West. We're so weak in knowing what realizers. The other thing that went through my mind was, because I'd read it, was Ramakrishna, because the Gospel of Ramakrishna has such a wonderful account of a realizer with his devotees that it reminded me of that. And I remember leaving Adida's house once and going on those curves when you're leaving the Mountain of Attention, going the sanctuary up there, going towards Lower Lake. I named those in my mind the Ramakrishna curves, because here I was just in the glow of Adida's absolutely brilliant presence and trying to make sense out of it.
Right.
What just happened?
Right.
You know, what was I exposed to? And so you're looking for places that are culturally understood. So I'm going, okay, Ramakrishna. This was just like Ramakrishna with his disciples. Except there was only one time, on New Year's Day of 1886, where he apparently let it all out, and there was a group transmission and everyone was blown out. But that would happen all the time with Adida. And so that experiential time in Garbage and the Goddess, all of us experienced it. I mean, when I would sit for meditation, the body would be infilled with all these experiences. I remember when a scholar came to visit the community and I sat on the couch with him, and we started talking about, you know, what's your background, what do you know, and all this kind of stuff. And then we started talking about, he said, you know, I'm familiar with all the samadhis, and he started telling me about the samadhis, and I said, yes, I know that. And as the conversation developed, at a certain point, I just mentioned, well, I've had that experience. What? You've had that experience? I said, yeah, I didn't do anything. It was given for free. Adida gave me the samadhis for free, and all of us. It wasn't just me. Some people, there were a few that were just so shut down they couldn't receive much, but most of the people who were there received those experiences. And after having those experiences, Adida would over and over again make it clear to us that it's just the word he used, New York term, bullshit. It just wasn't it. The ego still remains, the self-contraction. Before you're an ego-seeking experience, now you're an ego who's had experiences, or having an experience. And now you may get puffed up, and Adida made it clear, experience is not the point. So in our community, that was got out of the way early, very early. He basically said that those kriyas and all those experiences are really beginners' phenomena. And that as you mature, you won't have those anymore, because they're really just signs of the nadis, the spiritual circuits being undone. So what would happen when we show, getting back to your question, the difficult man, was that sometimes people would be rolling on the floor, sometimes people would be screaming, and it was, a lot of people got interested. For the next few years, and we, coincident with doing the difficult man, we published the book Garbage and the Goddess, which was perhaps the most Leela or story-oriented of all the books we've ever published. But what happened, and I saw it with my own eyes, is people could not get the point that experience was not it. Even though the experiences would be shown, people having the experiences, and then Adiada would say, these are not the point. People came after that period of time wanting the experiences.